Ryan Day has completed his coaching staff with a finalizing deal with Patricia to be the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Let's talk about what that means for the Buckeyes. Let's talk about what that means for the 2025 assistant coaching cycle. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football 24/7, 365 days a year. And we've spent quite a bit of time this month talking about the coaching changes that have happened all over, really precipitated by Ohio State winning the national championship and either people trying to regroup to do what they did in 2024 or Ohio State trying to retool after what has been a shakeup of Ryan Day's coaching staff. Now, not long after Ohio State won the national championship, and even before, leading into that, we were already hearing reports that Jim Knowles was probably out the door, even as Ohio State was set to make him the highest paid coordinator in the history of the sport at about $2.75 million. There were reports that Oklahoma was willing to go there and or just a little bit farther over, and then Penn State came over the top with $3.1 million and gets to bring him back to his home state. He is from Philadelphia. I don't think that matters as much as, A, you want to get out of Columbus for your reasons, and B, you are going to take more money because more money is more money at a place like Penn State where they have decided to double down on trying to win the national championship in 2025. They already had re-signed Drew Aller, who I still think is the weakest part of that football team, which is to say that if he gets better, they could win a national championship, but that's a big if based on what we have seen from him for the last 2 years as the starter. But you got Nick Singleton and Katron Allen back, and deny Dennis Sutton on that defense for Jim Knowles to call. You lost Juwan Sider to, Notre Dame because DeLon McCullough decided to join Chip Kelly, former offensive coordinator at Ohio State, at Vegas with Pete Carroll. That staff is actually going to be pretty fun to watch, I think. But that meant that, among other things, Ryan Day has had to replace both of his coordinators, Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles. Neither was a Broyles Award finalist, but I think that at least one of them should have been. And that's got more to do with, I think, the voting than it does Ryan Day. I think Jim Knowles was the pick there. There are those that believe that Chip Kelly should have done that or been that, but having been a head coach and having been one guy that's just want to call plays, I understand you're trying to help Jim Knowles out, or you think you are, until such a time as he up and leaves for Penn State after putting together what was the best defense in all of football. Scoring defense, total defense, red zone scoring percentage. They had them all over there at Ohio State. And at Penn State, they weren't that far behind. With Tom Allen, they had a really great defense. It was the anchor of that Penn State team. He goes to Clemson, and that makes way for Jim Knowles to come over, and perhaps you can take it a step further and get the best defense in the country, not just one of the best defenses in the country at Penn State. Now, we get to know that Brian Hartline is going to finally get to play call as the offensive coordinator. He's been promoted from wide receiver coach. I think he's the best assistant in Buckeye history, and I don't think it's close when you take a look at what he has done since taking over that role in 2018. I hear some folks talk to me about what Zach Smith was doing as wide receiver coach, and I'd say, I will take Brian Hartline's receivers against Zach Smith's receivers every day of the week. And I know that you got guys like KJ Hill and guys that he helped recruit like Terry McLaurin, so forth, so on. But when I look at Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, God, my goodness, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Omega Ibuka, I don't think it's that close. Now, we could also throw in there Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, Cardinal Tate, but we ain't got to. Mylan Graham don't even see the field. And I think that dude's a starter anywhere else. He feels to me not unlike what Jamison Williams was at Ohio State, a guy that has had a hard time getting there and maybe in another world goes to a place like Alabama and becomes the best wide receiver in the sport by virtue of you're going to be the guy catching most of the passes in the way that Jeremiah Smith has become that guy at Ohio State. Defensively, it's been a roller coaster. It's been a ride for many of us that have been following the stories of who Ryan Day has looked at and who he's wanted to get. We start with a couple of things, right? There was this little brief incident where we thought it was going to be Chris Ash was sort of in the mix. You're still trying to retain Jim Knowles. You can't get him. Then there's thoughts of Joe Cullen, who was defensive line coach at Kansas City, who had been a defensive coordinator at Jacksonville for Urban Meyer. In the meantime, you lost Justin Fry to Arizona with the Cardinals. You're bringing in Tyler Bowen, who's a former coordinator at Virginia Tech to coach offensive line, one hell of a recruiter, all while trying to get your defensive coordinator position settled on. Now, Patricia came up because that's apparently who Ryan Day wanted to go get. This is a lukewarm hire for most Buckeye fans. It is the kind of hire that at least Michigan fans who have been in the comments below have been lauding. They really love this hire for Ohio State, which is to say that they don't think that Ohio State's gotten that much better or may have even gotten worse, but hiring a guy like Matt Patricia, who's got 3 Super Bowls. The thing that I think most people want to lean on is that he's a rocket scientist. And I'm like, that's great. We play football. What's rocket science got to do with playing football? Now, as a person who left a PhD program to do this job, and I love my job, that's why I left the program, I'm really good at this, and I would have been great at that, but I'm really good at this. And, my advisors at Oklahoma State were saying so. It's like, yeah, you could have your own writing center in creative nonfiction. You've got a book at the time, now 2 books. But it sounds to us like you can be really great over here doing this. Maybe that's what Matt Patricia decided for himself. I am going to say that the skill set that is required to be a football coach is on the floor. It doesn't take that much. Being a rocket scientist can help you, and it's a nice thing to put on your resume. Josh Dobbs gets to say that too. I think that we've seen what Matt Patricia has looked like as a head coach, and it ain't been that impressive. Now, as a coordinator, we'll see, but we haven't seen him at a high-profile Power 4 program like Ohio State calling plays. We'll see. This feels a lot like the Bill O'Brien hire for me. It feels like Ryan Day has had some real fascination with coordinators that Bill Belichick had at the New England Patriots for one reason or another. Bill O'Brien being a former head coach at Penn State, offensive coordinator at Alabama. Julian Sayin was coming because Bill O'Brien was there as well, right? Now we're in a space where Matt Patricia is going to have to build bonds with guys. He's going to have to get to know guys. And frankly, he's going to have to work with some guys on the staff that thought perhaps they were going to have the job. Tim Walton and Matt Guerrieri among them. Matt Guerrieri being the leader in the clubhouse for all of this. And I think he's still going to be safeties coach and probably have a heavy hand on what they do in the secondary along with Tim Walton. But it is going to be Matt Patricia's defense. And that is Larry Johnson Sr., defensive line coach. And I just wonder whose ego is going to win out here. Like I know that the coordinator is going to be Matt Patricia. But could it be what Jesse Minter was at Michigan? Maybe. Could it be what Mike McDonald was at Michigan? Maybe. It's in the cards, and maybe that's also what you've been looking at. You lost 4 in a row to Michigan. Is this the kind of hire that helps you win that game? Because as much as we do talk well about Ohio State here, they've lost to Michigan, and this is not a year they were supposed to lose to Michigan, 2024 being that year. Maybe you're looking across the sideline and going, what is it that they're doing that is frustrating a lot of people, but frustrating us in particular? Is it something that we can teach? Is it something that we can go forward with? These are all interesting questions, but I did want to talk about Matt Patricia getting the jobs, being set to be hired at Ohio State, and when it becomes official on the website, then we're off and running with spring football. Very much looking so different even now.